Hi, everybody. My name is Simon from Stampix. I'm the founder and CEO, and I'm super excited today to host this webinar. We are going to talk about the science and heart of customer relationships. And as we mentioned, maybe it should be called the art of customer relationships. And I'm super excited because we have two fantastic guests who can bring a perspective from a ton of research on the one hand, and then a real practical experience from a remarkable and iconic brand like TUI. But I'm going to leave it to our guests to introduce themselves properly. So let me start with you, Zhecho. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Zhecho Dobrev. I'm the author of a book called The Big Miss: How Organizations Overlook the Value of Emotions. And I'm a partner at an organization called Human to Outcome. So we're helping organizations transform the behavior of leadership, management, employees, and customers. And you know, really all my life, I've devoted my career to the art and science of customer experience. So I'm glad we'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah, amazing to have you here. And over to you, Frans. A few words.
Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So my name is Frans Lennaars, or internationally Frans Lennaars. I mean, you can do that too. So indeed, I'm CMO for Belgium, Netherlands, and France for TUI. We call that the Western region. And secondly, and that's maybe also the reason why I'm here, is I'm leading for the TUI group, for all countries, in fact, customer experience, which is strategy innovation, which is insights, and also customer service. So really the whole piano, if you will, of CX, of thinking about what you want to achieve, measuring it, and then also performing it, and then adapting it where needed. I mean, that's the practical stuff we will be talking about. Yeah.
Amazing. So we have both the practical and the theoretical, so it should give fireworks. But before we dive in, I'd like to make a few practical announcements. So first of all, I brought my lovely team member Anjara here, so you'll see her appearing on screen potentially, or at least via audio, because as you noticed on the right-hand side, there is normally in everybody's screen a chat room. We had a look at the list of attendees, and they're from all over the world, people with a lot of expertise and loyalty. So it would be a shame that we limit the discussion only to our own questions and topics. So feel free, don't hesitate to add questions in the chat room. We will hopefully have some time at the end to tackle some of those. Yeah, there's a specific zone for questions. Actually, you can see it normally on your right hand side. And then second, occasionally you will see a poll appear on the screen. The only way to get rid of the poll, I think, is to participate. So there's a slight nudging tactic for you to participate. They should be simple questions. Yeah, give us some love and participate in that poll. It's gonna hopefully give us some additional insights on the webinar and the content. I think that's it. Cool. So then we can kick off with the first question. And Zhecho, normally you already see here the first poll. As you see, we actually read your book, both Frans and I, as prepared. So you have a critical crowd here. And one of the topics that the book unmantles is this concept of emotional attachment. So maybe a quick question for the audience out there, what they think the appropriate attribution is for emotional attachment as a value driving factor for businesses. So I'll give everybody a second to cast their vote. Voila. We'll wait a second for the results, but I'm gonna give you the floor, Zhecho. Can you elaborate on the concept of emotional attachment and how it ties into business value?
Sure. So when COVID hit and all our projects were briefly halted, I had some time on my hand, and I kind of had this lingering question in my mind: is this like, how much value do relationships actually drive in business? Can you quantify that value? And versus relationships versus the things that most organizations journey map, such as the purchasing experience, getting on board experience, using the products experience, billing experience, communications, customer service, and all those digital self-service, all those other things. So most organizations are mapping these journey steps, kind of going through the customer life cycle, customer infinity life cycle loop, the buying experience, the using experience. But hardly anyone, and with the many journey mapping, but hardly anyone in those journey maps is focusing on how do we purposefully drive relationships. So I thought, well, let's quantify these apples to apples and see how much value does a relationship drive versus some of the other touch points. But as I started to look into our database and construct the constructs, I thought, well, actually, what are relationships? Who do we have relationships? Essentially, relationships are about emotional attachment, because, again, when we look into our database, we also included things like trusting, feeling cared for, respected, and things like that, responsive, and things like that. So therefore, we had this factor emotional attachment, but also brand and awareness, buying experience, billing and payment, communications, customer service, and the product experience, using the product, and so on. And then we look at, well, what is value to organizations. So things like likelihood to recommend, preference over the competition, easy to work with, and I guess there was something else, but essentially proxies for business value, things that we know that if organizations do well, that are proven that they lead to the desired customer behavior and long-term value. And essentially what I found is this, that emotional attachment was by and large the biggest driver of value, with 43% of the overall value, compared to second came product and use. And third was brand and awareness, followed by customer service, and so on and so on. So again, and what is also very interesting is this: if you ask customers what's most important to you, 74% says product. Give me product price, product reliability, things like that is the most important. But when you look at what actually drives value, by and large, in 59% of those models that we run, an emotional aspect was the biggest driver of value. And therefore, I call this a little bit the irony of customer experience, because we say you need to talk to customers, you need to ask customers what they want, but the reality is they'll tell you rational aspects, which is most about the product. So you shouldn't expect customers to tell you, most important thing for me is that organizations make me feel valued, I feel like I have a relationship with the organization. We've actually asked these questions. That's not what people say they want. But when people feel those things, those are the things that actually have an effect on their attitudes and behavior towards organizations.
Yeah, and that's a pretty remarkable outcome, because trumping even the product, which is what most people would expect to be dominant, is definitely very surprising. I'm quickly going to switch to Frans, because I'm curious to hear how an organization like TUI in multiple regions performs research on the specific drivers, and then also the link to business value. Very.
Maybe first a comment to Zhecho is indeed what I found interesting reading your book was that in fact that emotional connection was even stronger in B2B environments, right? So yes. I mean, it was strong in both, but it was even stronger in B2B.
Exactly.
So actually there are two questions, Simon, you're just asking. One is, how do you understand your customer drivers, right? So exactly. We have a relatively long customer journey, which you can imagine, from inspiration to booking. Then people are preparing. Usually that's 3 months before they go on holiday. Then they travel, they're in destination, a week, 2 weeks sometimes, and they travel back, etc. So very long journey. We measure a lot. We measure everything we can. So we measure per touch point what satisfaction is of our guests, in fact. And we also know the drivers per touch point. So we know which are the most important drivers, so which buttons we can really turn on, if you will. And then ultimately, we measure only NPS actually at the end of the holiday. So post-holiday, we measure NPS. We don't ask for recommendations throughout the process when we interact with our customers or our guests. So it's CSAT along the way, and then in the end, we measure NPS. So we have a very good handle on drivers per touch point. So maybe I can open the box a little bit. So when we talk about the whole journey, we know both booking experience and service and destination are most important, traditionally. Yeah? But then you can peel the onion further. Okay, what then within that experience is important? And for instance, also we know in the flight touch point is maybe not, or you can take any transport, of course, right? But a lot of our customers fly. So we also have the flight touch point, and then in that touch point again, we have the drivers. What we also know is if we dial up or if we improve items, what it will do with satisfaction and then ultimately with NPS. And then the moment it translates to a higher NPS, it creates business value for us. So we know exactly if we work on this, and even if it's different per market, because in some markets different drivers are important, but then we know if we dial up that button so and so much, that is the effect on CSAT, and then that's the effect on NPS, and so business value. So that's also how we rate business cases, in fact, or how we judge business cases if an investment is worth it. Yeah.
That makes sense. Frans, can I summarize that? NPS is then an indicator for retention. So if you improve the NPS by, let's say, 1 point, you already know the retention is improving by a percentage, and that translates to a dollar value. Is that the way we have to
There's several items that determine the value of 1 point in NPS, for instance. So indeed, it's retention. So it's our guests coming back. But one thing is if they come back and what they spend when they come back, because we also know that guests who come back spend more the next time. So there are different elements. There is, for instance, also an element in reduction of cost of non-quality. So that also represents a business value, because if you improve your processes, you're more satisfied customers, you pay out less in complaints, for instance. So there's also a reduction in costs. So it's a very positive double whammy effect.
Very good.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, to Frans, acknowledging that we now have this mindset or this knowledge that emotional connections are important. So can you think of specific tactics at TUI to reach the right segment, the most valuable segment, to drive first consideration, and then at the end, of course, forge that emotional relationship to build loyalty?
Yeah, you ask now many things, Simon, because first of all, there's indeed the overall awareness, consideration, and then we call it then brand identification before people convert. But we have identified 8 segments, in fact, in the market. There are also trip reasons, but will not make it too complicated. But we have identified 8 segments. In 3, we are overrepresented. And actually, the funny thing is that those are the same segments in all European markets.
Okay.
3 segments we think, okay, we are focusing less on, but we have 2 segments identified as growth segments. So basically, we know a lot about the 3 segments we're overrepresented in. So what these guests like, how they can spend even more with us, for instance. And then there are 2 segments in which we want to grow. And it means that we need to reach them. So find ways via marketing to reach them indeed. And then bring them relevant propositions. And then hopefully let them indeed consider and convert and try. And then we hope, of course, that they're happy, that they're satisfied, and that they come back. So there are different elements to this. So we have different segments, and we also know, of course, that different segments want different things from us.
Yeah.
We have different sales channels. We sell via our own shops. We sell via third-party shops. We sell a lot online. We sell via the app. We sell in the contact center. People have different preferences. And also on holiday, we also know that people have different preferences. That goes sometimes by nationality. I mean, I don't want to generalize too much, but there is a difference between the different nationalities in Europe, in fact, which we call our source markets. And then there are different things they like. And then regardless of or within that nationality, there are, of course, different segments. And then some younger segments, you will not be surprised. They only want to interact in a digital way. And that you need to sort of fine-tune. I can tell you maybe also that after the pandemic, we thought, oh, now everybody is so ready for digital interaction, we just dial down on physical service in destination, and we found that our guests were not only our guests, but in general, we also have some general research, but travelers were not ready for that, in fact. So we dialed up again, but it's interesting how, I'll give you some example. The Polish are super happy to do everything digital. Scandinavians also, in fact, but the Brits and the Belgians, they like more physical interaction.
Really?
I'm generalizing, okay, but yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
question from Olga.
there is a follow-up question that I may as well pose. So, yeah, so it's for Frans. So, can you specify the segments you just mentioned? I think there were 8.
And how you
Yes, indeed. I'm not gonna call all the names because it's an internal segmentation which we did with an English agency, with a British agency. Yeah, how I can best describe them, because I don't think the names are so relevant. But some are really deal seekers. They want it cheap. They don't care so much which destination they go to, and they want it cheap. Then there are people who really want to be pampered, and they want to pay extra for that, and they want all kinds of service. Then there are people who prefer to do everything on their own. So they may be usually not the people who would end up with us. And then there's also people, I just give you a few examples, and if people who are quite adventurous actually, but they like to be handheld a little bit in that adventure. So that's the type of segments we go after. Yeah.
Great. So maybe for the next question, Zhecho, over to you. If brands or brand managers want to really get tactical and take actionable steps, what would you recommend in terms of forming emotional connections? Your book has a whole second part on this. So
7 of them. There are many ways that you can do that, but first is like, what are the emotions that would drive most value for you? So funny, many years ago, I actually did research with TUI. So if you take that holiday experience, you have emotions like happy, pleased, but safe. We know that, again, going abroad and relying on a company that, imagine going to a place like Tunis, Morocco, and, they go to so many, even Spain, like just being abroad. I know that we're surprised that TUI fare very high on the emotion safe. Not feeling hurried while you're on holiday, again, they fare very good. So first, like, well, what are the emotions that drive the most value? Then, well, you need to define the emotions you're trying to evoke, and then design those in the experience. And that could be designing those in the physical interactions, or equipping employees with the skills to evoke those. But also you can evoke emotions through digital interactions as well. So those are some things, but again, very practical. First thing, you need to show people that you know them, because how can you have a relationship with someone that you don't know? So that goes first. You need to show that you know them and try to personalize things, and be mindful about some of those emotions, and if people approach this with purpose, we are purposefully trying to design certain emotion in the experience, then they can take the necessary steps.
Great. I hope the video and audio is still clear for everybody out there.
We can hear you. We can't see you for the moment, but we can hear you.
I had the same thing with you, so I hope it will come back. But the Wi-Fi is stable, so it should be okay. Frans, are you still hearing everything?
I hear everything. I don't see you.
You could see Zhecho?
Yes. No.
Okay. Then we keep going.
Then we keep going. Should come back.
Maybe Zhecho can give us some examples then, like of customer journeys.
Yeah. So Zhecho, Anjara had a good idea. Maybe there is an example of a customer journey that comes to mind for you on how you would design these emotions into it.
Yep. So let's. So there was an interesting. Okay, so there was an interesting case recently. B2B company in Canada. B2B company in Canada. They supply heating oil to commercial customers in Canada, who then go on to sell it to residential customers. So it's very much price driven and things like that. And what was interesting, again, they decided to do some projects, cost cutting, organize things. So before, their customers used to go to a local office, local sales office, or call the local sales office and order a new supply. So the truck comes and gives them heating oil. They changed that process to go through a central 1-800 number. Okay. And I remember reading the comments. We did a quantitative survey, but also there were some open-ended comments. I remember one of the comments that said, it's not that those guys are bad receptionists. So he called the agents on the other side the receptionists. It just, they don't know our area and things like that. And this was, we found that this was destroying value. It was the opposite of the thing that was driving the most value. And essentially we found that by doing that, they've taken away that feeling of relationship out of the equation. So imagine you're this customer, you go to the local office, people know you, you chit chat, you have all this relationship, and now all that is taken away from you, and you're just nobody calling a 1-800 number. Now, is this necessarily a bad thing that they try to use technology to maybe cut some costs, streamline things? I say, well, not necessarily if it was done right. So again, they actually reverted back, but if they had asked a question, well, how can we preserve that feeling of relationship through technology? So you have, caller ID. We know, hi, Mr. Tavernier, thank you. Are you ordering still the same thing? And we know the locations. So they have caller ID, 360 profile view, and all these other things. It wouldn't have been the same thing, but this is an example of how you do something and you take that feeling of relationship completely away. And that was destroying value, because literally people were going to the competition and other things, and people were complaining a lot about that. So they actually reverted back on that aspect. But again, we have so many examples from different companies. This was just one of the most recent ones.
Yeah, I bet, Frans, that you can relate with an organization so big. It all comes down to the execution, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that to remain consistent, authentic, and genuine over time with your customers?
Yeah, it's a big challenge, of course, because as I said, our journey is long. So we have many interactions, many touch points, and also many different people, right? In our shops, at the airport, in our planes, in our hotels. So yeah, we have a big group of colleagues. And what we've done is actually the following. So I hope you all know our campaign slogan, Live Happy. I mean, it was Discover Your Smile before. It's been Live Happy for a while. What we did, so Live Happy is really what we promise basically our customers or our guests in the outside world. And we made a big program inside the company, and we call it Makers of Happy. So basically what we've said to everybody, wherever you are, whatever you do, you all contribute to the happiness of our customers, our guests. And for frontline people, that's very obvious because they've been trained and they know, and they might not always be consistent in their delivery, but they know that it's important and they know also how to do it. It's just you need to remind them sometimes to be consistent and to do it all the time. But also at the same time, there are people behind the scenes in different departments. I can mention the finance and HR, but also marketing, for instance, who are just less close to that. So we made everybody aware that we share that responsibility, and they all have to play their part. So we kicked off a big program, was presented by our CEO, and we did that company-wide, and we trained everybody, both with e-learnings, but also really classroom training, face-to-face. And we also try to give examples of, let's say, the behavior we love to see. We share that on our extranet, etc., and that's how it works. And I think there was a lot of that already in our company. I mean, we're in hospitality, we're very guest-centric. So many people, you don't have to tell this, in fact, but we reiterated it. We gave it a common language, we gave it a common platform, and we also took along all the people who are a bit further away from it. And what we also did was we tried to connect, I call it hard and soft. So the soft is, let's say, the behavior we like to see. So we had desired behaviors. We explained in what circumstances we would like to get what kind of behavior. We connected that to our values, which everybody knew already. It's TUI, trusted, unique, inspiring. We sort of gave that some new content. And then we gave everybody the tools to perform in that way. And at the same time, you can call this the soft side, if you will. At the same time, we really make it also hard. So we have created infographics, so everywhere in town halls, but also on digital screens, in all our offices, everywhere, we show how we're doing. So this is, let's say, the state of the union. This is what our customers say about us. And so we share the CSATs per product group. We share the NPS. We show how the whole journey is going and where we need to improve. And when it's good, we're all very proud and we say thank you to everybody. And when it's not good, we say, listen, guys, we need to do better. So we try to bring that hand in hand. So indeed, a lot of focus on, let's say, the emotional side, the behavioral side, but we bring that hand in hand with the numbers. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is if people are listening to this is gold, and they should replay this part from France, because so I've been doing this for 15 years, and this is what I found. So initially, I didn't like the word culture because I was a young consultant. I think like, how do I change the culture of an organization? This is like my head couldn't get around that. But then now, from the distance of 15 years. I found that actually the organizations that we have worked that really achieve long-standing, sustainable success are the ones that did similar things to what Frans said, which is work on changing the culture, work on engaging everyone in the organization, including the back office. And it was doing things like that, the purpose, doing things with everyone, with the back office, defining the experience that they want to deliver, like Frans mentioned, trust, unique, inspiring, giving them the hard and the soft things. So all those things that he mentioned are really what takes. Because if you just work on one research project, this project, if you just think of customer experience as a project, it won't give you sustainable results.
Well, and what you sometimes, and I agree with what you say, Zhecho, and it's interesting because CX or customer experience is sometimes a bit of a difficult beast to understand for people, right?
Yes.
Because the top of the company wants it to be really clear about what's the business value it's bringing. And let's say the frontline staff really get engaged on the behavioral part. So it really needs to, it needs to come together.
Yeah.
Great. Quick intro from Jara.
Oh, you're going to put the poll.
Okay. I'm going to have to launch a quick poll here. So, poll, there we go. 1 second. Publish. Should be showing up on everybody's screen. So, the question is as follows. Customers who feel an emotional connection to a brand are more valuable because, and there's a number of reasons. You can select multiple. And this was beautifully explained in Zhecho's book, with the proper links to the specific researchers. So a lot of options, and make your choice. I'll give you a few seconds. And CS is customer service, CLV is customer lifetime value. I think the other ones should be easy to understand. Curious to see what you got. Maybe good to share the results from the book as well on this question.
Yeah.
So everybody submitted. So actually all of them drive value, except what we did not find research. It could be true, is that there are less tickets on the customer service. I don't know, Zhecho, maybe you have updated research on this?
I think both valuable and people who feel emotional connection, people who don't can create tickets. But the ticket is an opportunity for the organization to really show what their DNA is made of. This is called the service recovery paradox. Sometimes there is a dip, like something happens in that holiday, but if they have a really good recovery, that could take the emotional connection, the loyalty, even to a higher extent, because now people had the opportunity to experience what the organization is really made of.
Yeah.
So Zhecho, am I correct then that 4 out of the 5 are correct? Is that what you're saying? And it's just that they create less tickets is not true?
That could be. But again, the ticket is created because you had some experience failure. But like I said, that experience failure can lead to even higher emotional connection.
Yeah, indeed. And in fact, yeah, I also thought that the create less tickets is not proven, in fact, because I think sometimes when you're really engaged, you might contact the company even more often, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? That's
yeah. But the outcome of that customer service, so again, in my research, I found, so that was interesting. So first time I found emotional attachment is the key driver. Then I look, okay, if emotional attachment is the key driver, which of those traditional touch points has the biggest effect on emotional attachment? And customer service was, I think, the highest, along with product and brand. So the outcome of that ticket could create customer attachment or could destroy customer attachment. So it is not the ticket, but it's the outcome of the ticket that matters.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Zhecho, in your book, at some point there's a great quote which goes as follows: people don't choose between experiences, they choose between the memories of their experiences. So could you elaborate on that and maybe specify types of emotions that have a strong impact on brand love?
So this quote comes from Professor Daniel Kahneman. I don't hijack that, but I found it very profound because, again, if you think, people don't. So if people ask one of France's to his customers, "Hey, was that vacation in Tunis any good?" They won't answer that based on their experiences, because they had that experience, right? The vacation is gone now. They're back in England or in Poland. They would answer based on the memories of that vacation, and people don't remember every single moment from that vacation. They typically remember the peak experiences, whatever they were, good or bad, and endings matter a lot. And so therefore, and why are emotions so important? Because what people remember, memories are associated with emotion. The higher the emotion, typically, other than extreme cases, typically the higher the emotion, the more stronger the memory. Again, good or bad. So that's why emotions are important. That's why memories are important. You need to design purposeful peaks and endings. And going back to your question, I think typical emotions that drive a lot of value that many organizations are not quite measuring out, things like trust, cared for, valued, appreciated, things like that.
So Frans, I bet we can apply this beautifully to your industry, where the peak, I presume, is the trip or the holiday, but then the end, and it's called the peak end rule, which I found really insightful, Zhecho. Is this something you already worked on, or some insights on the peak and the end at TUI?
Yeah, so peak, in our case, it's then traveling back, right? So indeed, most important thing, of course, is the holiday itself. Yes, of course, we're familiar with peak end rule. The challenge we have a little bit is that we see consistently over all markets, in fact, that traveling back scores lower than traveling out. And that has nothing to do with that there are more delays or those kind of things or annoying situations at airports, but it's really about the fact that you're in a different frame of mind when you travel back. So indeed, even more that calls for making it memorable and making it special. We have tried some things, in fact, especially in the UK, to do some special things on board with children, with crew, make it really memorable or give something extra. And that has indeed worked. So yeah, I acknowledge that definitely works.
And I can vouch, Frans, that there are some initiatives on making the welcome home at TUI even more special.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you talk about.
Yeah. Inside joke. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So on to the next question. If I can just quickly see it. So, yeah. So one thing that's important to emphasize, and also came out of the previous webinar we did, is that a loyalty does not mean a loyalty program, although they are used very much interchangeably. You can be a very loved brand without having a loyalty program, and I think we have an example here with TUI. Frans, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that you can have loyal customers without a loyalty program. Some companies also call it a recognition program, because loyalty program sounds often like you have a few tiers and an earn and burn system. That works, let's say, when you have multiple purchases in a short period of time. When you have less frequent purchases, like in our case, unfortunately, I would say, that's a bit more complicated. But there's definitely room to grow. I mean, because loyalty ultimately is that you measure that your customers are coming back, right? I mean, that's how you measure. So if I look at retention versus percentage of promoters, our percentage of promoters is higher than the percentage of people we retain. So there's room to grow. So we are looking into ways of embarking on that and taking action to increase the retention levels. Yeah.
So that ties into to one of the findings in psychology, right, Zhecho, that people, what they say is not necessarily what they do.
Yes, absolutely.
And that, in a way, is the potential for future retention growth. Cool. Frans, I don't know if you can, but some numbers, if you can share them for TUI on promoters and what the definition is of a loyal customer.
Yeah, so the way we measure retention is, in fact, if you purchase another holiday within the next 2 years, or if you come back within 2 years, that's how we measure retention. We also measure 1 year retention and 3 year retention, but the definition we use throughout the company consistently is 2 years. Indeed, you should think of a percentage around 40%, roughly. Differs a little bit per market. Belgium and UK are a little bit higher. Netherlands is a bit lower, but and also, of course, it will not surprise you, because of the pandemic, many people did not travel. So, but our retention levels are really good and healthy at the moment, in fact. And then if you talk about promoters, you should think of percentages like 55-60% of promoters, people who score as a 9 or a 10.
Wow.
Again, bit different per market. Of course, we need to subtract the detractors to get the NPS. Yeah. But luckily enough, our promoters increase and our detractors decrease. But yeah, so good numbers, actually. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. We're going to launch the next poll in the meantime, but I'm already going to feed the question, the next question to Zhecho. You actually mentioned that you worked on TUI a while ago. Crazy coincidence. But when you look at customers who feel certain emotions to the highest extent, and TUI came on top in a few emotions, can you elaborate on them? I think Zhecho is frozen for us.
Yeah.
For you as well? Okay.
Yeah, it's frozen.
We can launch the poll maybe in the meantime.
I'm going to do the poll in the meantime.
Yes.
Okay. So, up. This one should be showing. Yeah, it's a question related to the previous topic. So, are you loyal to brands that don't have a loyalty program in place? Quickly to hear. I'm curious to hear what people say.
Feel free to send in the chat the brand if you want. We're curious to hear.
Yeah, if you didn't catch that. So any great examples of loyalty programs or brands without a loyalty program, don't hesitate to add them in the chat while we wait a second for Zhecho to return.
Maybe we can go to the next question.
Yeah. So Frans, among other things, you are also the lead of customer strategy and innovation. What is the role of data in this when you think about innovation and strategy? There's a ton of data coming out of all these travel experiences. Yeah, how do you leverage that to drive engagement?
Yeah, so we do different things. So as I already mentioned, we measure a lot. We know where we have room for improvement, right? And then you can always choose, do you work on the quality of the existing process, or do you really redesign and look at it from scratch, in fact? And we do both. So in some cases, we say, listen, this is not good enough, improve it, in fact. And in some cases, we're going to really sit around the table and then think of a whole new way of doing things. So if that's an answer to your innovation question. And maybe also nice in this context to mention that more and more we're digging deep into contact reasons. So why we are contacted. I mean, we first called it tickets. I think Zhecho called in the poll it was called tickets. We measure, of course, how often we're contacted by our customers or our guests, and for what. Mm-hmm. And then we go really deep to see, okay, so is it stuff where we can improve our process and customer service? Sometimes it is, and of course you can do stuff with automation and a lot with AI at the moment. So we do many pilots with that. But at the same time, you might also be contacted for things that find their origin somewhere else, right? So they have root causes somewhere else in the chain. That can be a process in the airline, that can be a process at the hotel, in destination, different things. And then, or on the website, for instance. I mean, if people call you all the time for the same thing, that obviously it's not clear on your website, you need to improve it. So we play that back to wherever it needs to go, and we let those departments then improve. And then, yeah, we see relatively quick results if you tackle that. But the heart of it is really keeping track or analyzing contact reasons, because we have 15 million interactions a year in total in TUI, and we can of course just put people on seats and just act. But you can also try to understand why we're being contacted and then reduce interactions. And some interactions, I said it before, are very valuable. So you want to enhance an experience. We want to upsell, of course. We also want to make money, right? Or just fix something. And we try to solve on the spot as much as we can. So if something happens, it may be in the airline, it may be in destination, we give our frontline staff the opportunity and also the technical tool to fix a topic and to even pay out, in fact, immediately, without any bureaucracy. They can just say, okay, I see this topic, this needs to be fixed, I fix it. And so that's how we try to, so, and that's how we solve 60% of issues right away. We nip them in the bud, as the British say, and the rest comes to us, let's say, after holiday. But the point is, you don't want it to end up after holiday, because then you can't do anything about it anymore, right? I mean, still, you can of course acknowledge what happened and listen and try to make up. But the moment you can, especially because our journey is so long and the stay in destination is also relatively long. So if we can fix it there and then, it's of course always preferred.
Yeah, that seems very logical. When we were talking before, you mentioned sometimes it's also very interesting to share with the audience what some things that don't work or haven't worked. Do any things come to mind here?
Oh yeah, there are many things that didn't work as much as well as we hoped to. I'm not sure. Did I mention? I don't think I did yet, right? No, I think I did. In a way, I did. So I think the big aha after the pandemic was indeed that not everybody was ready for those digital interactions. Right. And what's also interesting, in fact, is that people who prefer physical support or physical interaction also score higher on the digital support. So it really enhances each other, right? Okay. But things that don't work, yeah, I mean, that's also for certain segments that you try out things and you think you have a solution. You pilot it and then you see, it doesn't get the desired results. So, okay, we dial it back. But yeah, I think the biggest example indeed is around the level of digitalization and the readiness for that.
Yeah, and by simply tuning it all the way into digital wasn't, or maybe you guys were a bit too fast in certain markets. I guess.
Yeah,
that's,
depends per market, and also depends on how well you explain it, right? So another thing we also learned is that you have to. I mean, this is for a marketeer not strange probably, but you also need to be really clear about what guests can expect. And let's not forget that we talk about big ticket items, right? This is a big expenditure in a year for many people, holiday. So the clearer we are on indeed what airline they fly with, for instance, or what kind of service they will have in the hotel, or how often there will be support, that's also really important. So the moment it's much better known up front, we score better. In fact, that's clear. And yeah, some things, I mean, maybe what didn't work well, another thing comes to mind now. What we do, so for let's say digital interaction, we say that anybody in the world on holiday with us 24/7 can reach us with any topic via the app, via chat, right? And we gave ourselves 30 minutes to react on that. We believed that was okay, etc., and that we could cope, and we could not. So we found ourselves in the situation that if you promise to people that within 30 minutes they get a reaction and they don't, then people are super disappointed, right? So either then you say, listen, it takes a few hours, or you just ramp up your staff. We did the last thing. We seriously ramped up people. We got better systems in place. And I'm super proud to tell you that this year, from the whole summer season, there has not been 1 month, and our summer season starts in April, and there has not been 1 month that we have not hit our service level. So for all markets at any time, even with disruptions, so we had the fires in Rhodes, we had some other topics in Germany and also in the UK, and we've continuously been able to react within 30 minutes, A, let's say within the service level, but B, also at a satisfaction level that was close to 8. So not only they get an answer, but they also get an appropriate answer, and their issue is solved or supported. Yeah.
Amazing. That's very impressive. Zhecho, glad to have you back. I hope.
Yeah, sorry, there was a power cut, and for some reason I couldn't use the 5G to connect.
Okay. Oh my God. Yeah.
The challenges of life.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But we hear you loud and clear, so that's good. So Zhecho, back to you. How can we make sure that relationship between brands and customers are strong and lasting?
Well, just like anything, you need to measure it. So yeah, there's a few ways, but so you can create emotional connection through a number of things. Brands, so again, depending on your situation and the type of business you're in, B2B, B2C, how much of direct contact you have to customers, but you can create emotional connection through brand and advertising. Even products, whether they're physical or interface, even the design of those products can elicit emotional connection. I write, there's a chapter in the book I write about that. But certainly, like Frans was just talking, customer service, it creates a lot of emotional connection, especially when it's face-to-face. And then the important thing there is about empathy. Interesting, again, I write in my book that, and now AI comes into the picture, and what was really interesting is one company that had done research on more than 1 million or many millions of interactions with agents, so actually contact center agents. They found the 10 behaviors that are proven to drive customer sentiment and customer satisfaction. I thought that this is gold, because now you can just take those things and train your customer face, the people that are in touch with the customer on those behaviors. But now I carefully choose my words. I say people in touch with the customer, because just right now we're working with a pharmaceutical company that they had like 6-7 departments simultaneously being in touch with the customer. So again, this is some of that back office things and other people that are a little bit further away from the customer that Frans was talking, but it's important that you engage those people as well. Because one thing I was thinking about, going back to that thing about culture, do you know how many, let's do a quick poll. Do you know how many decisions a person makes every day? I Google this. So each one of you, roughly speaking, do you know how many decisions you make in a day?
You're putting me on the spot. Active, subconscious.
Yeah. I Googled this. I checked a few sources. The consensus seems to be about 35,000. Even right now, you're thinking, shall I read this email or shall I keep listening to Zhecho? That's a decision.
Yeah. So now some people are leaving already.
So think about how many employees there are in the organizations that are taking decisions every day. And we see that those decisions taken in the back office, they affect a lot what is happening on the actual experience. So, and therefore it's important that you engage those organizations. Well, but by and large, first thing is you need to have a purposeful strategy on how to create those relationships. So maybe I should have started with that.
Yeah, no, that's a whole lot. 35,000. I had a few thousand in mind, but
me too.
Yeah,
that's another order of magnitude. I think just to make sure that we're mindful in time, I'm going to launch the last poll, and we are going to put our money where our mouth is and ask feedback to everyone on what they found most insightful. So please cast your votes, and we're happy to share the results afterwards. Should be showing on your screen.
Nobody has a question. I have a question for Frans.
Okay, we have a question from a live question from Anjara.
Yes. It's just a quick, Frans, you were mentioning like all the data that you guys collect to categorize people and the segments. Do you know, like, of course you know, but can you tell us what's the best way to get honest feedback from people? And like, when? Is it like after the trip? Is it when you offer them something in return? Is it in the moment that they close, like we call it a ticket? Can you share a little bit about that for us, please?
Yeah, we do it. Yeah, it's a very good question. And I don't have a single answer, to be honest. We do it several ways. So we ask feedback in the moment. I personally believe most in that, in fact, that you get feedback right away, because otherwise there is some kind of filter when you get it later, I think. Yeah, if you reward people to get feedback, we do a little bit of that, in fact, but that's mainly to get our response rate up. And that's not the big thing, in fact. But yeah, I believe get it everywhere. And in fact, there are three ways of feedback. One is, of course, your customer feedback, and you get it in moment, or you get it afterwards, or however you get it. But of course, also your own employees have a lot of feedback. So really capture that as well. What they learn, what they know, because they know so well what works and what doesn't, and often it's overlooked. And then, of course, there's also, yeah, you can look at your processes. You see where things work and where they don't. So at the end of the day, it's the voice of the customer, it's the voice of the employee, and it's the voice of the process, right? You bring it all together. And because it's good to have the different sources, because your customers tell you a lot. But they will not always tell you everything, because it's also sometimes difficult for them to see what's the problem inside your company or in your product. Yeah. So that needs to be detected in another way, in fact.
Yeah. Cool. Quickly checking with Anjara, is there a question?
No questions so far. We have 3 minutes left, but in the meantime, if you want to say next steps,
yeah.
I'm just gonna share PDF.
Should be showing something on your screen. Yes, so if you are looking for ways to connect with customers, we have an interesting approach. We can create some of these samples. Anjara here next to me, who you all met, can create these samples based on a brainstorm session. And if you want to look at whether an investment in this specific reward can pay off, then I'm more than happy to set up a little business case, quick segment about Stampix, and then for the next, for the future, we are planning to do a live loyalty meetup anywhere between Amsterdam and Ghent, where we are. Will be between one of those destinations, so it could be cool in Q1 next year. And if you want to stay tuned for those live meetups and for the next webinar, yeah, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, because that's where we share most of these announcements. So you can get to our LinkedIn page by taking your phone and scanning the QR. And with that, I think we are just well within time. I want to give a big thank you to Frans and Zhecho for taking the time to share their knowledge and expertise. We highly recommend you to read Zhecho's book and to experience the travel destination and CX at TUI. So with that, I'm saying goodbye and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.